we are going to record today's session as well. So again, thank you all for joining us for Dreams Really Do Come True, presented by Coach Jim Johnson. Just some housekeeping before we begin. There will be an opportunity for question and answer later during today's presentation. So during the presentation, if you would please type your questions in the chat box, and Coach Johnson will be answering them at that time. So I want to give you a little bit of a background about Coach Jim Johnson. So in 2006, a decision based on kindness during a high school basketball game turned Coach Jim Johnson into a national news celebrity and an authority on the subject of making dreams come true. Now in his presentations around the country, Coach, as he is so affectionately called, emphasizes the importance of teamwork, sportsmanship, and leadership. The same concepts that helped him develop a winning high school basketball team more than 30 years ago. Coach has appeared on Oprah, Good Morning America, ESPN, and dozens of national TV and radio shows. In 2011, he released his first book, A Coach and a Miracle, Life Lessons from a Man Who Believed in an Autistic Boy. To learn more about Coach, you can purchase his book and follow him on social media. You can go to coachjimjohnson.com, and I know we're going to share some information at the end of the presentation as well, on how to get more information. So before we begin, I'd like you all to take a look at this video, and you'll see why we are all so thrilled to have him. All right, let's get started.
What we all want in life is a shot. But what we do with it, that's the story we all want to tell.
You know, I've coached for 25 years and I've never experienced that, the emotional high of what happened.
What happened for Jason McElwain, or J-Mac as his friends call him, is about more than a shot. Diagnosed with autism at 2 years old, now identified as highly functioning, he's never considered himself different or separate, especially when it comes to sports.
Sports has always been, how could I say, his equalizer. He's just like any of the other kids out there.
It's not really a big deal at all. I'm just normal like other people. That's the way I am.
At 5'6", J-Mac didn't make the junior varsity basketball team at his high school, Greece Athena, near Rochester, New York. Instead, he became team manager, a role he now has for the varsity as a senior. In the last 3 years, in his white shirt and black tie, he's missed only one game.
Go to practice, I set up the clock and get the water in games and be enthusiastic.
As this season was wrapping up, Coach Johnson approached Jason with an idea about the Trojans' final home game of the season.
I said, I'm really going to look to try to get you in the game, but remember, I can't promise you that. And he goes, okay, Coach.
February 15th, Greece Athena against Spencerport, senior night. With word out that Jason might play, the student section printed signs of J-Mac's face, just in case. And with 4:19 left in the game, with the Trojans up by 20, Coach called down to the end of the bench for number 52.
I just kind of turned and pointed at him, and he almost ran right on the court. He was so excited.
Hey, Jay, you got to check in. So he hits the buzzer, and he doesn't go anywhere. It's like, now you go on the court. He was so caught up in the moment.
He came into the game, they all stood up and they put the signs, the pictures of him up, and I got really emotional. And I sat down and started to cry.
With 3:46 left, Jason got the ball.
When he missed that first three, I was like, oh, and then it airball, and I was like, man, I really just want to see him score one time.
I put my head in my hands like, dear God, please, just get him a basket.
Then, with 3:12 left, another chance.
That third trip down the court. Magic.
As soon as I started hitting my first shot, I just kept shooting, and I was just hot as a pistol.
Shot after shot after shot kept going in.
the basket was like this big, huge bucket, and I was shooting like they were free throws. It was just a big, huge bucket that's like huge.
And I was like, oh my God, is this really happening? He has more points than me, so he's got bragging rights over me.
He was unstoppable for that moment in time. He was unstoppable.
He comes down the court right at the end with like 3 seconds left, and he hits this one that's, you know, probably like an NBA three. As soon as the gun ended, they stormed the court, you know. I couldn't, you know, I just couldn't dream anything like that.
It felt like we won a championship. Everyone was just so happy for me.
In that 4 minutes, 19 seconds, Jason was 7 for 13, 6 of 10 from three-point range, 20 points in all. In the end, Jason McElwain was the game's high scorer.
Truly the most incredible moment I've ever had in coaching. I was so touched, and it was just so special to me that a young man, his dream came true, you know, and that I could help that. It was awesome.
What we all want in life is a shot. J-Mac took his, and now it's a story we can all tell.
We finally found our dream.
All right. We're back. Coach, we're all set, Coach. Thank you.
Okay. Isn't that the essence of teamwork, when you can shine the light on someone else on your team? And that's what our team and our school did for JMAC that night. And as we take this journey together, what I want to do is I want to challenge you to think about your big dream and can you make it come true? And to do that, I want to share this inspirational story to inspire you to think bigger. And I also want to give you 2 essential keys that JMAC exemplified that we can all use in our life to make our dreams come true. And those 2 keys is being a great teammate, which I'll illustrate many times through this presentation, and 2, the essence of perseverance, that never give up mindset, that I'm going to find a way, no matter what, to make my dream come true. Well, I'll start with a couple of basic questions. How many of you have a really big dream? Think about it for a moment. And number 2, how many think your dream can come true? Because with that, when we're thinking about making your dreams come true, I can't guarantee that all dreams will come true. But what I can guarantee is that you can do a lot more than you think you can, like JMAC illustrated. So let's take you back. Let's start the journey. Before we get to JMAC, before I was coaching at Greece Athena, I took over another Greece school called Greece Olympia High School. And when we took over the program, it was in pretty bad shape. But fortunately, we got it turned around. In our last 3 years there, we actually had 3 of the best seasons ever in the school history. We actually made the sectional semifinal 3 times in a row, which they had never done. And we were the #1 seed in the sectional tournament twice. So we created a good thing there. But after my 7th year, I got an opportunity to move on to Greece Athena, where I coached there for 20 years. And at Greece Athena, we were able to get it going pretty well right away. We had winning teams immediately, and we actually even won a few division titles. But I had this big stumbling block in my career, and the fact that we had never won a sectional title. In fact, the best as a coach I'd ever done was to get to the sectional semifinals 3 times at Greece Olympia. In my first 7 years at Athena, although we had winning records, we were not going very far in the sectional tournament. The 8th year, we finally got back to the sectional semifinals for the 4th time now in my career, and we lost in another tight game. The following season, a young man came into our program. His name was Jason McElwain. You saw what he did at the end of his career, but let's take you back. Jason is on the autism spectrum. How many people know someone on the autism spectrum? because it's gotten quite prevalent. In fact, I believe the latest research says that 1 out of every 58 people born in the United States is now on the autism spectrum. So that's pretty powerful. Jason was also learning disabled. He tried out for our JV team. And after a couple days of tryouts, I was the varsity coach. My JV coach came to me and said, "Coach, Jason's not a very good player, and he's very small in stature." At that point, he was maybe 5'6", 90 pounds soaking wet. But man, he has this big heart, and he loves the guys on the team. And I think he just would be great for the program. I said, "Well, what do you got in mind?" He says, "I'm going to offer him the team manager's job, but I'm also going to let him practice each day with the team." And that's what he did. And I'll admit, early in the season, there were some trials and tribulations as Jason got used to his new teammates, and his new teammates got used to Jason. But as the season progressed, the players realized that how much Jason cared about each one on the team and how much he was a giver first. And they really started to embrace Jason. Meanwhile, the head coach, that was me, I was having a terrible time pronouncing Jason's last name. In fact, if butchering his last name was a misdemeanor, I would have been on death row. It was really bad. One day I'm walking by the JV practice and I got an aha moment. I know players like nicknames. So I walked in the gym. I said, "Jason, come here." And he comes over and he's very small in stature, but he had this really deep voice. And he said, "Yeah, coach, what do you want?" And I says, "Jason, you know how Syracuse has GMAC?" Syracuse at that time, which is only a couple hours from us, had a player named Jerry McNamara that played on their national championship team, and everybody called him GMAC. And Jason goes, "Yeah, I like GMAC." I said, "Well, if you like GMAC, why can't Greece Athena have JMAC?" And he looked at me and said, "I like that." So it was a win-win. He liked the nickname, and I didn't have to pronounce his last name, so it worked out well. Well, as the season progressed, it would really warm my heart to see Jason would sit on the bench during the JV games. And of course, they say sit lightly because he would get a tad emotional during the game. And after the JV game, he'd be what I called disheveled. But the varsity players would come out, and before they would warm up, they would walk over, they would straighten Jason's shirt and tie out, tuck his shirt in, and get him ready for the varsity game. It was pretty neat to see. Well, that season ended with the JVs having a good year, and the varsity have another good season, and we got to the sectional semifinals now for the 5th time in my career, and we lost in another tight game. We were extremely disappointed, but that wasn't going to stop JMAC. That essence of perseverance, that never give up mindset. Because in my 30 years as a head coach, I rarely would ever have a young man, if they tried out for the team and didn't make it, try out again. But not only was Jason going to try out again, he was going to come to all our off-season workouts, our weight room workouts, our summer leagues, everything. And I was really starting to build a bond with him. I just admired on how passionate he was about the game of basketball and how much he loved the team and the program. Well, he tries out for the varsity as a junior. And I bring him in after a couple of days of tryouts. I said, "Jason, unfortunately, you're not quite good enough to make the varsity, but I would like to offer you the team manager's job for the varsity team." Well, he quickly embraced that role because he loved his teammates and he wanted to help any way he could. In fact, at the first team meeting, I walked into our meeting and Jason immediately raises his hand. I said, "Yeah, J-Mac." He says, "Coach, we're going to follow this slogan this year. And the slogan is, we're going to stay focused and we're going to help you win your first Section 5 championship." So, wow, thank you, Jason. I appreciate the support. During Jason's junior year, we had another good season. We got now to the sectional semifinals again for the 6th time in my career. And we lose at the buzzer to our crosstown rival, Greece Arcadia. We are devastated. But that's not going to stop JMAC. That perseverance, that never give up mindset. Again, he's willing to do all the work. He comes to all our off-season workouts. And he's getting better, and he's gotten a little bit bigger. And now he's up to about 5'9", maybe 110 pounds. But obviously still quite small in stature. Tries out for the varsity team as a senior. After a few days of tryouts, I bring him in. And this time I turn to him. I says, "Jason, I've got some good news and some bad news." He looks up and he's, "Yeah, coach, give me the bad news first." I said, well, unfortunately, you're still not quite good enough to make the team. This time he's visibly disappointed, his head dropped down. I said, but I do have some good news. His head popped like, yeah, coach, what do you got in mind? I said, for senior night, yeah, I'm a senior. For senior night, I'm going to give you a uniform and hopefully get you in the game. In fact, periodically, he would ask me about that uniform. And of course, I defined periodically as about every other day. He was pretty excited about that uniform idea. Well, we were expected to have a really good season, Jason's senior year. And we started well. We won our first 2 games in an opening tournament. And I thought, maybe this is the year we're going to break the barrier. I'm going to show my own perseverance and be able to lead us to a championship. But then adversity struck the next week. And it's such a long story. I do want to share, Matt mentioned, I have a book that I'm really proud of called The Coach in a Miracle that is on my website. We're selling it at a discount. And we take you through the ups and downs of that season, all the life lessons that I shared from that season. Well, what really happened was it divided the team, the adversity. Has anybody ever been on a team that didn't get along? Pretty challenging, right? Well, this team had a lot of talent because we were divided. In the next 5 games, we lost 3 of them. And I was really disappointed because I knew we were underachieving. We were much better than this. Well, our next game was in a Christmas tournament at Fairport High School, the biggest high school in Rochester. And their team was very good that year. But I thought our team was going to be really good. But unfortunately, because we were divided, we were not playing very well. Well, in the opening round of the tournament, we won in a close game. And in the second game, Fairport beat this team that we had barely beaten 2 weeks earlier by 40 points. Well, it was during Christmas break. So we brought our team in the next day for what we call a shoot around. A shoot around is a short practice for about an hour. And during that practice, we normally will do some shooting drills. We'll go over some of our plays and we'll go over the opponent's plays and get ready for the game that night. Well, I knew as a leader, I had to do something different to try to unite the team. So when they came in the gym, I didn't bring any basketballs out. I asked them to go over and sit in the bleachers. I looked them straight in the eye and I shocked them with my first statement. I said, guys, I don't want to go to the game tonight. They looked at me in kind of disbelief. What do you mean you want to go to the game tonight? I said, well, unless we decide that we're going to be a team and play together, Fairport is going to beat us by 50 points tonight. The best thing I did is I got wiser as a leader, is I realized as a leader, like everyone, you have 2 ears and only 1 mouth. Therefore, you should listen twice as much as you talk. And the wisest thing I did in that meeting was I stopped talking and simply said to the team, guys, I don't have all the answers. In fact, I delved into this a lot deeper in my leadership presentation. But what I did share with them is I need you guys to share what it's going to take to unite this team and get us playing where we should be playing. Well, they finally started to share and they gave us some good ideas. And by the end of the session, the guys really felt better about themselves. And we saw that in their body language. And it reflected that night when we played Fairport in the championship game. And we played a great game and we lost to them in overtime, which showed what we could do if we played together. From there, the next 9 games, we won 8. We got some momentum. We were starting to play much better. Well, senior night, I had 30 of them. It's a very special night. It's where we bring all our seniors out before their final home game, where their parents are gathering, and we honor each senior. Well, that was on February 15th. On February 13th, I gave J-Mac his first jersey. It was number 52. It was way too big. He didn't care. In fact, there was a rumor that he slept in it for 2 straight nights. Well, to see Jason before his senior night on February 15th embrace his parents in uniform instead of his white shirt and black tie is a memory I will always cherish. The game now begins. And we had a good student body following. They called themselves a 6-man. You saw that on the video. And they start chanting at the opening tap, "We want J-Mac. We want J-Mac." I guess just in case I forgot. Well, going to the game, I had a few thoughts. Number one, was that because we had rallied in the season, if we won that game, we actually had a chance to tie for the division championship. Number two, although I wanted to get J-Mac in the game, I understood that I had to get all the other players that were on the team regularly before I could put Jason in fairness. And number three, I wanted to get J-Mac in with enough time so he could score a basket. I thought if he could score a basket, that's a memory he'll have the rest of his life. Well, after 3/4 of the game, we had gotten everybody in but J-Mac. With just over 4 minutes to go, I thought the time is right. I turned to him, I pointed to him. He nearly ran right by me and onto the court. He was so excited. Then what happened next profoundly touched my heart and soul. Jason and I did not know this, but one of our parents had made all these pictures, these placards of Jason's face, put them on paint sticks, and gave them to the student body and asked them to share those, show those if Jason got in the game. Well, when Jason walked on the floor for the first time as a varsity player, they showed all those placards. Mr. Macho, me, I'm not going to cry at a basketball game, right? Wrong. I sit down, which I rarely did in a game, and tears are literally rolling down my face. I cannot believe how well, again, to talk about the essence of teamwork, to see the student body greet Jason like that was really special. Jason is now in his first varsity basketball game. The first time we get the ball, we come down. Jason runs to the right corner behind the three-point arc. We pass him the ball. He shoots a three. The crowd stands in anticipation. It misses by like 6 feet. Now, I know you're not supposed to pray in the public schools, but I'm praying, dear God, please help him get one basket. But here's a lesson for all of us. Think about a time. Imagine when you, for the first time, tried something new and you failed miserably. Did you give up? Or did you show the essence of perseverance like J-Mac? Because one of the things we taught our players is what we call next play. You got to be willing to move on when you make a mistake. And Jason's first mistake as a shooter was pretty big. He shot an air ball, but he just moved on. Well, the next possession, he has a much closer shot from about 10 feet. And of course, I got to add a little drama because it might be a movie someday. He lets go about a 10-foot shot. It hits the backboard. It hits the rim. And it falls off. And the crowd groans. I'm thinking, all right, God's starting to listen. We're getting closer. Third possession, we get the ball to Jason, this time behind the three-point arc at the right wing. He lets it go. Magic. The ball goes in. The place explodes. And I'm thinking to myself, God must be a basketball fan. Not only is Jason scored, he's got a three-pointer. It can't get any better than this, right? Wrong. For the next 3 minutes, J-Mac turns into his boyhood idol, the late, great Kobe Bryant. And before I finish the rest of the game, I got to fast forward 5 months after that game. Jason's in California at the ESPYs. He's one of the 4 finalists for the greatest sports moment of the year. And one of the other finalists is his idol, Kobe Bryant. Kobe had scored 81 points in an NBA game that year. And Jason beat him out for the ESPY. Going back to his game. So he gets the basket. Next time we get the ball, he makes another shot. The place goes crazier. Then he makes another shot. He makes a couple, he misses, and the place is just going bananas. So with about a minute to go, I'm still sitting on the bench, tears still rolling down my face. And I get a tap on my shoulder. I'm shocked. I look behind me. It's Jason's mother. She's bawling her eyes out. She whispers in my ear, Coach, this is the best gift you could have ever given my son. What would you have done if you heard that? I cried harder. Then this is how the game ends. With less than 10 seconds to go, our opponents spend support. And I want to give kudos to their team and their coach. They were great sports. They score a basket, and our player takes the ball, and he goes out of bounds, and he normally throws it to our point guard. But this time, he throws it to J-Mac. So J-Mac's dribbling down, and everybody's kind of thinking he's just going to go in and make a layup and end the game. Oh, no. I look up at the clock. It's saying 3, 2. Jason pulls up like 2 feet behind the arc. I'm thinking, Jason, don't shoot from there. That's way too far. He launches this rainbow. Swish. I look over, our student body rushes on the floor. Our players rush on the floor. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm living the movie Rudy. But this is really true. Then Jason's parents have an interesting dynamic. His dad is 6'6", and his mom is 5'2". And I see this little bitty lady bobbing through the entire crowd. She gets to Jason. She gives him a big hug. And he liked that for a moment. Then he kind of shrugged her off. Then our players put him up on their shoulders, and he's got the game ball over his head. And at this point, I have no idea how many points he has. And our public address announcer comes on and says, the leading scorer for the Trojans tonight, J-Mac with 20 points. Now, with my math brain, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if he had played the whole game, he'd have scored 160 points. That's pretty good. Then you talk about the essence of teamwork. When Jason got in the game, there were 4 other players on the floor with him. And I never asked any of those players to pass J-Mac the ball. Yet in those last 4 minutes, Jason was the only one that shot. In fact, I still kid Jason all the time. I said, J-Mac, I'm still looking for your first assist. You never passed the ball once. But isn't that the essence of teamwork? When you can shine the light on one of your teammates. And that's one of the ways that you help people make their dreams come true. And that's what made that so special. Well, after the game, I really felt I did it for all the right reasons. We didn't have any media. And I have seen a ripple effect where I've seen other really neat stories after J-Mac's story. And I think it's cool. But I really felt I did it for the right reasons. I didn't have any media there. And my only media responsibility was after the game, I had to call it into our local newspaper, the Democrat and Chronicle. And when I called the DNC, a sports writer answered, and I said to her, hey, we won the game. And I explained, I said, but our team manager got in the game. He's on the autism spectrum, and he scored 20 points. He led us in scoring in less than 4 minutes. I thought for sure he would get a headline. In fact, when I got home that night, my wife and son had been at the game. They were in shock, and I barely slept. I couldn't wait to get up the next morning and look and see if Jason got a headline. I opened up the sports page the next morning, and we get a headline, but it reads, Trojans, our team nickname, ties for division title. I'm like, I guess it wasn't that big a deal. It does mention a little bit in the article that Jason scored 20 points, but they didn't make much of a deal out of it. Well, I get to school that day, and I got to admit, I didn't do much teaching. We watched that game film over and over again. And I remember students coming up to me and say, Coach, this is going to get on ESPN. I said, ESPN? It even got headlined the Democrat and Chronicle. But of course, the students were right and I was wrong. We'll talk a little bit more about ESPN later. Well, that's where I thought that would end. What I didn't know is Jason's speech pathologist. He had worked with Jason for 4 years, and I didn't know him very well, and he normally didn't come to the games, but Jason told me he might get in. So he came to the game. He was so profoundly touched by what he saw that the next day at school, he called Channel 8, one of our local TV stations, said, you've got to come and borrow the video from the coach. This is the best thing I've ever seen in sports. Well, they did. They showed it that night and got such an overwhelming response that the next day we had 3 TV stations come in. In fact, I'll never forget one of the TV reporters said, Jason, can you explain what happened? He said, I was just hot as a pistol. They ran with that one. Well, so we were starting to get some media attention, and that was the end of our regular season. And we were going into the next week, which was what we call February break, where our students are off from school, but our players are coming back to practice to start our postseason tournament. Well, Friday night of the weekend, Mike Catalano from Channel 13, one of the sports directors, calls me and says, Coach, this is amazing. Would you mind if I send it out nationally? I said, no, if it can make an impact on the country, Mike, I think that'd be wonderful. Well, the rest of the weekend was very quiet, and I thought that was where it was going to end. Well, Monday morning, I got up, and we didn't have school, so we had practice in the morning, and I'm just about to leave, and the phone rings, and I pick it up, and it's CBS Evening News, and they normally don't call the house. They said, Coach, we heard about the game. We going to come in and do a story about it. I said, sure. So they came in, and they did a story on it Thursday night. And then Friday, the day before our first sectional game, because we got a bye in the first round, was a pretty typical practice at Greece Athena. Before practice, we were interviewed by Good Morning America, CNN, and ESPN. Then after practice, ESPN stayed for like 5 hours to do that 5-minute documentary that I showed you. In fact, my wife and I are quite close, but I told her I'd get home at 2 o'clock that day. Well, I nearly knocked the door down at 5 o'clock. I said, honey, we're going to get on ESPN. She goes, where have you been? You told me you'd be home at 2 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock. I said, honey, you're not listening. We're going to be on ESPN. She goes, no, you're not listening. Do you realize how many people called here today looking for you? And she had all these names and numbers on a group of pieces of paper. She crumpled up the paper and fired it at me. And she says, I am not your secretary. So there was a little bit of media pressure. Although I will say the next week when Oprah Winfrey's show called the house, she did pick the phone up again. Well, our first game was Saturday night. It was at Athena. It was a quarterfinal game. Unfortunately, we won the game pretty easily. In fact, to give you an idea of media attention, typical post-game interview, we were interviewed by People magazine. Then I said to my athletic director after the interview, his name was Randy. I said, Randy, just in case we have some media attention when we get back to school on Monday, would you mind if I have a sub to handle the media? He goes, no problem. Take your time. Well, I'll give you an idea how much media attention. I had a sub for 8 consecutive school days. It was pure craziness. And of course, we're trying to prepare for that Section 5 tournament that we had never won. Well, our next game when we got back to school was Tuesday night. And I'm believing God. And the challenge is that I was praying to God that we were going to win this game. But of course, I was going against a Catholic school, so I wasn't sure who was going to get to God first. Well, as it turned out, we were ahead by 10 points at halftime of the game. I thought, oh my gosh, we're finally going to do it. But unfortunately, we imploded in the third quarter. We fell apart. The other team came back, took the lead in the fourth quarter. But this time, I did a better job as a leader. I was more positive. I kept reinforcing we can do this. And our team showed great perseverance. They stuck together. They were supporting each other. And we rallied and won the game. We were going to the Section 5 finals for the first time. The next 3 days at school was like a mini Super Bowl week. We had a Japanese TV station come in to see us. It was crazy. So Saturday night is the championship game. And we're playing at the Blue Cross Arena. And for the people that are local, the Blue Cross Arena, probably most of you have gone either to a game or an event of some type. And the Blue Cross Arena seats about 11,000. Normally for a championship game, we'll get 4,000, maybe 5,000 people at the game. We walk in the arena Saturday night and it's sold out, 11,000 people. And Channel 8 asked to interview me and they asked me a few questions. And I said, Coach, do you mind if we interview J-Mac? Now, I was standing on the floor and J-Mac was right behind me in the first row. I turned to him, I said, Jason, Channel 8 wants to interview you. He stands up, he says, Coach, it's time to get focused. No media interviews. I felt we were ready, right? In our first championship game, after 4 minutes, we're down like 13-4. I'm like, whoa, that pregame speech didn't work. But again, I stayed more positive. Our players were supportive of each other. We hung tough. We actually rallied. And in the last minutes, a tie game, one of our players penetrated in towards the basket. He threw it out to one of our other guards. In a tie game, he shoots a three-pointer. It goes in. We're up 3 points. Our opponent comes racing down the floor. They shoot up a shot. It misses. There's a scramble for the rebound. I'm standing like this, and all of a sudden, whack! I got tackled by my JV coach, which indicated we were Section 5 champs. We had finally done it. We had won our first sectional championship. And the interesting thing, I talk about ESPN. After the game, we actually took our team to a local restaurant to celebrate. And we actually watched highlights of our game on ESPN. So you just never know. Well, after that, we got into the state tournament. Unfortunately, we lost, which ended that season. And we're in for inspiration today. So I want to share with you in a few minutes, it's going to come back to me and I'm going to open to any questions you have. And then I'm going to close with a story or two to challenge you a little bit on how you can make your dreams come true. Before I turn it over, I want to share that, again, if you're interested in my book, or if you ever would like me to present to one of your groups, whether it be inspirational or teamwork or leadership, those are my expertise. I also do a goal setting workshop. I'd love to support you in any way I can. If you go to the website, you can contact us. And also we have a free newsletter you can sign up for, as well as a weekly free blog. And I just started a leadership podcast. One of my goals now is to help young and emerging leaders. So it's called Limitless Leadership Lounge, and you can find that on Spotify and other things. We just started that a couple of months ago. So we're excited to try to provide value with you any way we can. And I look forward to staying in touch. So I'm going to turn it over. Fortunately, I'm really privileged and honored to be able to work with the Arc. They do so many great things. And I want to share a young man that has a special story for you. His name is Declan. And Declan is going to share a little bit about, and then you're going to see a video of what some of the great work Declan has done working with the Arc. So Declan, all yours.
Thanks, Coach. First of all, I'd just like to say that it's an honor to be doing this. This is kind of my first time speaking in public. I suppose it goes without saying that I am also on the autism spectrum, which I did not find out until I was almost done with middle school, when I was in about 8th grade. Initially it was kind of hard for me to grasp it, like to understand what autism sort of entailed. And then eventually, as time went on, I learned that it looks different for everyone. I think really where it really affected me was during my years in high school. All throughout my first 2 years, in freshman and sophomore year, I had just a tidal wave of assignments, at least in comparison to when I was in middle school. And it piled a lot of stress onto me when I had to work on it, just in general, whether it was on my own or with my parents or other teachers or teaching assistants. And then something else happened when I was in sophomore year, where I was diagnosed with depression after spending the night at the hospital, after I talked to my school counselor about about suicidal thoughts. And I got to give props also to the hospitals, because they managed to sit me down. They got right to it, and they knew exactly what the problem was, and it was in fact depression, which apparently it's hereditary. So thanks, Mom. No, but I eventually I was put on some medication, which I'm still on. It's sort of a anti-anxiety, antidepressant sort of thing, and it has helped immensely to sort of help regulate my mood. And something else that certainly helped for the rest of high school, in my junior and senior years, I was placed into a different sort of, it was away from like the main grounds of my high school. It was in the Brighton Central School District office. It was called the AIM program, which was a lot more, it had a lot more one-on-one time with where, in my class, in the class of 2016, when I graduated, there were like probably upwards of 1,000 students. And I might be exaggerating that a little. But in the classes themselves, I would have probably 15, 20, maybe even 25 students sharing a class with me. But with the AIM program, we had like about that many in the entire program. So on average, there were probably like 6 students in each class, which definitely was a lot more helpful and a lot more constructive for me, because I work better definitely with a lot of one-on-one support. And again, I don't know where I would have been without help from all sides, from the school district, and from my parents, and from the hospitals that helped me, that got me into, that saw me before I did anything rash, so to speak. The amount of support that I got was, it helped to restore my faith in humanity, certainly. And eventually, when the time came that I had to get a job, I did have one for a few months, but it ultimately didn't end up going anywhere. And then I think it was the next year, my parents introduced me to the Arc of Monroe, and they got me into the SELF program. And it has, just the past almost 2 years now, I've been working with them, and it has been, for starters, it's been probably more educational than my entire high school career. And it's taught me a lot as well, just about like what it takes to actually get a job, like not just at the museum, but anywhere. And they've been, and it's not like, obviously we do a lot of work. We have internships. My first internship was in data entry, which initially I was admittedly not looking forward to. But as I sort of got into it, I started to enjoy it more. And then after a couple months of that, I moved on to the admissions desk, where I essentially greeted the guests in the museum. And that helped me to get more into, it helped me with interacting with people, because for a lot of my life, I was antisocial. I like to make the joke that I don't like people. Obviously not the case. But working in the museum, not just at the admissions desk, but also in a few other positions, has helped me to learn to interact with people with a bit less of, being less awkward with people, let's face it. And, like helping them navigate the museum, for example. I've had, in multiple instances, I've helped people find their way around. A lot of it is asking directions to the butterfly garden, which is understandable. It's a very fun exhibit. It still is really a really fun and enriching experience. And again, with all of the support from not just my parents, obviously, but also from the Arc. They helped me push through some of the harder times because, you know, no one's perfect. And there were some times when I was considering leaving the self program. I think it was exacerbated by maybe having a bad day every now and again, whether it was a bad interaction with a guest or whether I just wasn't in the right mindset to work. But I'll give full credit to my parents. They would not let me leave. And thankfully my supervisors in the program they were more than happy to keep me in the program and help me work through just anything that I needed help with, whether it was interacting with guests or even just keeping the museum clean. And then, of course, as we all know, in early 2020, the pandemic came through and just ran a wrecking ball through all of that. Admittedly, I did backtrack a little in my progress, but I was able to bounce back with a word that Mr. Johnson likes to use a lot: perseverance. Not just on my part, but on the part of the program staff. We got through it to just to get to we stumbling over my words. We got through it, and we're still going strong. We've got I've been, like I said, I've been working here for 2 years now, and I honestly do not know where I would be without help from the Arc of Monroe. And just everything that they have done for me, not just in the self program, but outside of the program as well. Like with my first job again, where I was working at a grocery store. They got me into supported employment almost single-handedly, I would say. And they helped me to, they're still helping me really to realize my full potential. And I have confidence that when it does come time to get a job, that I'm going to do very well in it. With any luck, maybe, hey, who knows? Maybe I'll get a job at the museum. It would certainly make for a short commute. And it would also, there's from the internships that I've been doing in the museum, I'd say my favorite is my current internship, where I'm helping to repair arcade machines and pinball machines with the exhibits team. And it's a lot less social interaction intensive, I guess you'd say. But it's also, it's sort of teaching skills that are transferable, because obviously it's a lot of fixing things. And I've learned to use a lot of cool gadgets and appliances and things, like a soldering iron. I didn't know how to use that for a long time, and now I can probably single-handedly solder an entire circuit board. Yeah, ideally I would like to get, if I do get a job with the museum, it would be something like that. Obviously not off the bat, but there is certainly an opportunity for upward mobility in the museum, which I'm grateful for. So like, if I were to start, say, with as a job at a job where, in a position where I'm where I'm cleaning the museum. I think I could find a way to, again, with perseverance, I could find a way to work up to my favorite my favorite internship, but as a job instead of just an internship. And like I said, that if I managed to do that, I would owe a lot of that to the Arc of Monroe, because they've helped me again to realize my full potential and to just have the confidence in myself to do the things that will help me get a job and keep a job. And I'll even give them credit. They gave me the confidence just to show up on this webinar. They just kind of pushed me to do it, and they bolstered my confidence. And here I am. It's in a position of high honor from my point of view. It's great that I get to share my experiences and how they've shaped me as a person, and just to take a look at the differences between how I was in high school and how I am now. I can't say this enough. The Arc of Monroe they have helped me more than I could ever thank them for. So yeah, that's my part. And I again, thank you for having me on here and letting me speak.
Thank you, Declan. That was truly inspirational story, and obviously our talk on perseverance today. You exemplify perseverance. And if you don't mind, we have a short video that actually highlights Declan. And so before we toss it back to Coach Johnson, I'm gonna just play Declan's video really quick. So let's get that started. Thank you again, Declan.
Thank you, Declan.
He's a great kid. He's a little bit challenging in the fact that he has a lot of work skills. I think with him, it's coaching the confidence into him. So that's something that we've been working on.
I'm not the most social person. I was nervous about meeting new people, and I still kind of am.
Declan really is into video games and working with Martin. And Sean had come to me and told me that Declan was interested, but he said, I want Declan to go and ask Martin himself. So I waited and waited, and I was happy to see Declan did it. So it's not just the internships themselves, it's being able to advocate for themselves.
You know, he expressed interest to his teacher about working on the games, and he was encouraged to ask me himself, and finally approached me one day and said, I think I'd like to work on this stuff.
This is my favorite internship site overall, just because all of this it's fascinating to me, and pinball is one of my favorite types of games. So getting to work on them and fix them and let other people experience one of my favorite pastimes, it's a big honor for me.
He's a great kid. And it's really good to kind of see him stepping out of his shell a little bit and getting to be able to not just do cleaning and stuff like that, getting to do something that he truly enjoys.
At first, I was astonished at his just retention of vocabulary, and I had to show him things once, and that was it. He has a passion that really is, I think, shown through.
Everybody at the museum does an amazing job with communicating with Declan. He's such an eloquent speaker that they really do kind of take him under their wing, and I think it's something kind of special to see.
It's an awesome relationship. Like I said, we're one big team. I just can't say enough about this program. It's great.
I think he's capable a lot more than what he allows himself to do at times, and I think everybody struggles with that. There's so many similarities that him and I have. Like I say I didn't like doing that either in high school. I'm a procrastinator as well. Or So I don't like talking to new people either, you know? So it was a difficult a thing that I went through along with him.
It's awesome because there's nothing these interns can't do, which I think is something that going into this, I wasn't quite sure of what some of the limitations might be, but there's nothing they can't do. I'm convinced of that.
I've been more social in the past year and a half when I've been working in the program. But as I've been working in the museum, especially in the 2 months that I was working with down at the admissions desk, I've been getting better with talking with strangers and to people in general. Honestly, my confidence has improved definitely. My tone of voice, even my tendency to make eye contact, and a lot of that progress I owe to the SELF program.
Thank you. And back to Coach Jim Johnson. Thanks, Coach.
My pleasure. What do we have questions, Matt, before I close? Do we have any questions, Matt?
Nope. Sorry, Coach. Nope. Just a lot of thank yous for both you and Declan for sharing your stories and for your messages. Nothing in particular.
Okay. So, well, then I will close. It was great to be with all of you. And often I get a question of, what is JMac doing now? What did he do after that season? And just to give you a quick update, Jason graduated from high school and he went right to work at Wegmans. And he was away from our program for a couple of years. And then he came into school one day and he said, Coach, I really miss the program. Is there any chance I can come back? And I said, sure, you can be a volunteer with us and work with all our teams. And that he did. And he really embraced it. In fact, in our last 9 years that Jason and I worked together, we won 4 more Section 5 championships. So for a small fee, I will run them out to you. Well, in our last year of coaching together was the year 2015-16, and we had a special player on that team. His name was Anthony Lamb, and I want to give you just another little inspirational story about someone Jason and I got a chance to coach. Anthony, when he came into our program in middle school, he was a pretty good player, but he was quite a bit overweight. And he got better as a 9th grader, but he was still overweight. But I brought him up to the varsity as a freshman, and he played off the bench. And by the end of the season, he was getting in better shape, and he started to play pretty good basketball. Well, after the season, I said to him, Anthony, so what's your big dream for basketball? And he said, Coach, I want to get a full Division I basketball scholarship to a college in Division I. I said, well, Anthony, I believe you've got a chance to do that, but you're going to have to get yourself in much better shape, and you're going to have to really work hard to keep improving your game. Well, he embraced that challenge and went to work immediately after the season. And the next year, he came back a different young man. He had lost weight. He was in better shape. He improved his basketball skills. And he went from a guy that was playing off the bench to his sophomore year. He made first team All Greater Rochester, which is the top 15 players in Rochester, which is quite a big step. But Anthony didn't stop there. Remember, his dream was to get a Division I scholarship. He kept getting better. In his junior and senior year, he was actually the All Greater Rochester Player of the Year, and he was one of the finalists his senior year for State Player of the Year. Well, Anthony had a little bit of a setback in the sense that he was what we call our in-between size in basketball. For us, he was quite big. He was 6'6", maybe 220 pounds, but he was more of a forward center in high school. And at the big time level, Syracuse, Kentucky, North Carolina, they look for guys that are taller than that. So Anthony didn't quite fit that mold, but he did make his dream came true. He got an opportunity to go to the University of Vermont, which is a mid-major, and he excelled there. He had a great career there. They actually made the NCAA tournament a couple times, and he was the Conference Player of the Year his last 2 seasons. Well, I talked to him in his senior year, and I said, Anthony, what's next? He says, Coach, my ultimate dream. want to play in the NBA. I said, well, that's going to be tough coming from a mid-major. He goes, I'm going to give it my best shot. Well, he didn't get drafted, but he did get in the Detroit Pistons camp as a free agent. And he only lasted about 8 or 9 days, and then he got cut. And so he never gave up on his dream. So he decided he had to go to the G League, which is the minor league for the NBA. In this past season, the G League played at Orlando in the bubble like the NBA did the year before. And he was playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers G League team. And unfortunately, he wasn't playing much, although he was working hard and he was being a good teammate. Cavaliers didn't believe in him. But the Houston Rockets liked what they saw when they saw him play, and they traded for him. And they decided to play him right away. And in the first game he played, he scored 32 points and had like 13 rebounds. And from there, he started the last 6 games for the Rockets G League team. They won all 6. They actually qualified for the playoffs. And after they got eliminated from the playoffs, a week later, Anthony's ultimate dream came true. He was offered a contract by the Houston Rockets, and he ended up playing in the last 30 games. He got into like 24 of them. And I actually had the pleasure, as a proud papa, being his former coach, to go down to Houston and see him get into 2 games. Although I missed his best game was the game after I left. He actually got into an NBA game and scored his career high 22 points. And then at the end of the season, he actually started a couple of games. So here's a guy that was undrafted, didn't make the NBA, was barely playing in the G League, but kept after it. He showed that perseverance, and he got his ultimate dream, and actually even started an NBA game. So he used these keys that we talked about, the essence of perseverance, and also the why it's so important to be a great team player. And I want to illustrate that with one final short story. When J-Mac's team won that Section 5 championship for the first time, I was mobbed by the media. And one of the first questions the media asked me was, Coach, this is your first Section 5 championship. How does it compare to the J-Mac night? And I thought for a moment, and then I said, I'm really proud of our team that we were able to win the sectional championship. It's something I will always enjoy, but nothing ever touched my heart and soul like the J-Mac game. And the greatest lesson that I learned that I want to share with you is you continue to pursue your own dreams. Remember, the best way to make your dreams come true, like Anthony and J-Mac, is to help others make their dreams come true. Thanks so much for having me. God bless.
Thank you, Coach Johnson. I want to thank everybody for joining us today to hear Coach's story of J-Mac and his wonderful advice for perseverance and for attaining your dreams, and for Declan for sharing his incredible story as well, and how he's been doing so well. And, you know, again, work, just speak for myself, Declan makes me want to know that the work that we do here at the Arc of Monroe is well worth it every day. I also wanted to do a quick little message in case you didn't see in the chat box. I added a message to get more information and to connect with Coach Jim. I sent his website address, and also to get more information on the Arc of Monroe's programs and services. I also added our website and the phone number to contact myself. So again, thank you. Unless there's any other questions, thanks again. And again, we will have this recorded, so hopefully keep an eye out in the future on our Arc of Monroe's YouTube page. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks, Coach.
Take care.
Take care. Thanks.